3 ODST is a rather interesting experiment on Bungie's part. This is a prequel to the events of Halo 3, and essentially an expansion to that game. More specifically, it's set during a crucial event in Halo 2, when a Covenant spaceship is leaving New Mombasa through a slip-space portal, which would cause immense disruption. Caught up in this disruption are the ODST team, another group of soldiers known for having a cranky bitterness towards Spartans. During one mission, the ODST team gets separated, due to the aforementioned event I described. You initially play as a soldier referred to as the Rookie. After yet another tutorial on how to turn your head, which in this case is somewhat justified, and to be fair, they do come up with some pretty clever excuses for basic head-turning tutorials, the Rookie escapes the pod and explores New Mombasa in the rain, with some alien Covenant enemies in the way, to search for clues as to where his teammates could be. Where did they go? Are they still alive? As you pick up certain clues, you're treated to some short missions over the events of the past few hours from the perspective of the other soldiers, all of whom have unique personalities, which are elevated due in part to Bungie being inspired by Joss Whedon's underwhelming hit, Firefly. They brought in Nathan Fillion, Alan Tudyk, and Alan Baldwin to play as some of the members of the ODST team, and they've even made reoccurring appearances in Halo 5. What follows is a more jazzy Halo experience, and to some extent, I think this expansion works. As a matter of fact, this game was purposely made before Halo Reach so they could try to make a similar plot. And certainly comparisons can be made between Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach. Halo 3 ODST doesn't make nearly as big as an impact as Halo Reach does, which initially makes sense. I mean, this is a smaller story and a grander narrative. But even still, despite the satisfying experience of Halo 3 ODST, I almost feel like I could have skipped this game and it wouldn't have made that much of an impact on the franchise, which is kind of a shame. So in that regard, Halo Reach definitely has the more satisfying and impactful ending. Yet Halo 3 ODST has narrative strengths of its own. As mentioned before, I think these characters are a lot more likable than the characters we saw in Halo Reach. Most would say you could just nail it down to the charisma of the actors, but I think even if Bungie didn't hire these celebrities to play these characters, there's more of a sense of camaraderie here, and this urgency to look out for one another. The gameplay is also very unique. In fact, I think this game takes the most boldest risks in terms of its gameplay, mainly because this is the first Halo installment, and the only installment in the Master Chief Collection, in which you don't play as a Spartan, which means you're not playing as a genetically enhanced super soldier. You're playing as still capable, yet very vulnerable soldiers. You don't have armor that self-regenerates itself. Instead, this game introduces a stamina meter exclusive to the ODST team. If you get hit frequently, the screen starts blurring red a bit, and your character will start panting. If the character is at the peak of their panting, and then continues to get shot, then they lose their health. If all their health is depleted, then your character passes on, you have to start again from the previous checkpoint. So the same basic mechanics of taking shelter are still there, but it's presented in a vastly different light. Your characters have to take a breather before they can continue fighting. Just hearing them almost gasping for breath is very stress-inducing, if you ask me. Combine that with the fact that you can't dual-wield weapons, can't run as fast and jump as high as the Master Chief and the Arbiter. On an interactive basis, it makes for a more stress-inducing experience, letting the players feel like regular soldiers, and it makes the players realize, wait a minute, if I'm having this much stress fighting regular enemies, then that must be how all the other soldiers I encountered as Master Chief must have felt like. It's kind of an eye-opening revelation when you think about it. Also, spoiler alert, there are certain narrative beats that I found pretty engaging. In between levels, the Rookie has to explore New Mombasa to find clues. To my knowledge, this is the first time that Bungie has tried out open world mechanics, and I don't think this has ever been fully explored in the franchise ever again, at least until Halo Infinite comes out. it kind of acts as a little hub world in between all the high-stakes action. And the somber piano and saxophone playing in the background makes for a very somber setting. And you can even avoid conflict, if you can. And early on, you're introduced to these new enemies, called the Engineers. These turtle-headed, floaty squid thingies. You see one of them in the company of the Brutes, and they say, "Aha! We'll use these as explosives!" And you, the player, think, "Explosives? Uh-oh, that must mean they're dangerous. Take them out from afar." Yet as you play the game, you realize they're highly threatening. Yet when you attack them, they don't fight back. I was on edge if they were going to attack me. Even when I shot them, they seemed very passive. And there's a plot twist later on, in which the ODST team collaborates with one of the Engineers, and it turns out they're really friendly. And they're only forced to be suicide by the Alien Covenant. And Buck, played by Nathan Fillion, has a very appropriate reaction that I think all the players have as well. How was I supposed to know? That was a clever interactive plot twist. So essentially the climax of the game is escorting the Engineer safely so that he could give information crucial for attaining victory in Halo 3. So Halo 3 ODST is not a complete waste of time, narratively speaking. And don't worry, there isn't so much as a drag with the infamous video game trope of escort missions. The vast majority of escorting the Engineer has him safely in a tank car. So as long as you don't do anything daft, you should be fine. And yes, there is technically another Warthog run to finish the level. And the missions themselves are quite engaging too, getting you in the mood for militarized operations. So my overall verdict on Halo 3 ODST is that it was a pleasantly surprising expansion to an already best-selling game. Many people consider Halo 3 ODST to be a hidden gem within the Halo franchise, and I can see why. Often overlooked because it's not as big as the other Halo installments, but it wasn't really meant to be. It was just meant to be a little experiment to see what they could do. And for what it was, I enjoyed it. Although if I were to complain about anything, is that in the listing order of campaigns in the Master Chief Collection, wouldn't it have made sense to list Halo 3 ODST between Halo 2 and Halo 3? Oh well. Got one more game to go, so let's get this over with.